On my wedding day, my best friend sent me an intimate video of her with my husband. In a fit of rage, I left Alexander, despite his desperate pleas. I ran away with my childhood sweetheart, Ryan Thompson. Alexander, possessive and obsessed, went as far as to blacklist us globally. In the end, I died alone in a rented apartment, sick and penniless. On my deathbed, Jessica Moore looked down at me triumphantly. Lily Collins, you're such a fool. You actually believe that AI-generated video I sent you? Now that you're dead, Alexander will have no choice but to marry me. She laughed smugly. As I finally understood everything, I wanted to slap her, but my arm fell limp. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. Seeing that intimate video again, I finally realized I had truly been reborn. The embarrassing sounds filled the room. I examined the video carefully and immediately spotted the flaw. Jessica had been careless, forgetting to remove the AI watermark in the bottom right corner. In my past life, blinded by anger, I had overlooked this crucial detail. Alexander thought I had abandoned him for Ryan, so he relentlessly targeted us, hoping I would come crawling back. I was too stubborn to give in, refusing even to ask him about it. This allowed Jessica to swoop in, marry into wealth, and become a rich socialite. In this new life, I won't fall for her tricks again. The wedding proceeded as planned. Under the officiant's guidance, Alexander and I exchanged rings and kissed, making everyone envious. Jessica, watching from below, clenched her fists in jealousy so tightly, her nails dug into her palms. As the ceremony neared its end, Jessica couldn't sit still any longer. The moment I stepped off the stage, she urgently pulled me aside. She exclaimed excitedly, "Lily, you can't be together. He's just a scumbag. You can't marry him while you haven't gotten your marriage license yet. Break up with him quickly. Otherwise, you'll have plenty to cry about later." She spoke with an air of authority, as if she truly had my best interests at heart. I smoothed out the train of my wedding dress and calmly replied, "Oh, you seem to know my husband better than I do." Jessica missed the sarcasm in my voice and continued, "Of course, you're my best friend. Anyone who wants to marry you has to be thoroughly investigated by me." She leaned in close and whispered in my ear, "Lily, you have to believe me. He's a total scumbag. Did you see the video I sent you earlier?" I feigned surprise and shook my head. "Huh? Video? What video? I've been busy getting married to my husband. When would I have time to check my phone?" Hearing this, Jessica had an expression of sudden realization. She dug her phone out of her purse, held it up to my face, and played the video herself. "Here, look at this now. After you see it, you'll know everything I said is true." Just as the video started playing, Alexander called out from the doorway, "Honey, haven't you girls been chatting long enough? It's our big day. If you stay any longer, I might get jealous." His tone was full of playful complaint. I laughed and replied, "Alright, I'll be right out." Then I turned to Jessica with a smile, and said teasingly, "Oh Jessica, there's no need to show us these educational videos. Alexander and I have already had plenty of hands-on practice." With that, I winked at her and walked out. Jessica stood there stunned after hearing my words. "Wait, can't you tell it's me and Alexander in the video?" She looked at the video again carefully, still unable to understand why I could remain so calm after seeing evidence of my husband's infidelity. I was walking slowly, and when I reached the door, I overheard her words. Seeing her confused expression, I couldn't help but smirk. Alexander was waiting impatiently at the door. As soon as he saw me, he eagerly pulled me into his arms. Then he scooped me up and strode towards the car with his long legs. Nestled in his embrace, breathing in his unique sandalwood scent, I softly said, "Honey, can we go get our marriage license right now?" Jessica's words had reminded me that Alexander and I hadn't officially registered our marriage yet. Without that legal protection, I'd feel more at ease once we had the license. Hearing my request, Alexander's face lit up with joy. He had asked me countless times about getting our marriage license. He knew I had a childhood friend and was afraid of missing his chance, but I had always refused because of my friend's words. This was the first time I had brought it up, and he immediately nodded in agreement. He pulled out our IDs and took me straight to the registry office, afraid I might change my mind. He said I was his most beloved treasure, now, in the future, and for all eternity. After getting our license, Alexander excitedly wanted to post about it on social media. I quickly stopped him. "Don't post it yet. I have an interesting show to watch first." Although Alexander didn't understand what I meant, he went along with it. "Okay, I'll do whatever you say, darling." Seeing his obedient and innocent expression, I couldn't resist giving him a kiss on the forehead. My past self was truly foolish to have doubted a man so completely devoted to me. In this life, I will cherish him properly and make him the happiest man in the world. After the wedding, Alexander treated me wonderfully. When we returned from our honeymoon, he went straight to the office to handle work matters while I slept until sunset. Jessica, who had been turned away several times, finally caught me on a day I got up at noon. As soon as she entered, she couldn't help but examine the decorations in the villa, her eyes full of ambition. I saw through her but said nothing. I adjusted my $1,000 silk nightgown, covering my fair legs, and said softly, "Jessica, married life is quite comfortable. You should find someone to marry soon too." Hearing this, Jessica laughed awkwardly, then frowned and scolded, "Lily, how can you have so little self-respect? You're only married. You haven't even gotten your license yet. How can you move into his house? Listen to me. Rich men like Alexander are just playing around with you. Don't get too invested." I lightly raised my hand, revealing a diamond ring the size of a pigeon egg on my ring finger, along with a thick gold bracelet on my wrist. "Just playing around? He sure is willing to spend a lot, if that's the case." Jessica stared, her eyes nearly popping out of her head, almost drooling with jealousy. She grabbed my hand and earnestly advised, "Lily, I'm your best friend. How could I possibly want to harm you? Listen to me. Break up with him as soon as possible. Otherwise, in the end, you'll be kicked out with nothing but tears." I tilted my head in confusion and asked, "Why do you keep saying bad things about him? I'm very happy now. Shouldn't you be happy for me? Why do you keep wishing me ill?" I coldly stared at her, and the air around us seemed to freeze. Even the mosquitoes sensed the tense atmosphere and flew away, not daring to come near. Seeing that I refused to break up, Jessica's chest heaved with anger. She glared at me with bloodshot eyes, gritting her teeth. "Lily Collins, I'll tell you the truth. Alexander and I have known each other for a long time. We were even talking about marriage. If I hadn't gotten angry and broken up with him Do you think you'd have had a chance? Alexander only loves me. He married you just to make me jealous. Otherwise, why would he only have a wedding ceremony with you, making it public knowledge, but not get a marriage license? Isn't it just to upset me? Jessica spoke with such conviction that if I hadn't already gotten the marriage license with Alexander, I might have believed her lies. Seeing that I remained unmoved, Jessica pulled out that intimate video again. She held it up to my face triumphantly and said, "Look, this is proof that we were together before. We love each other so much. As long as I change my mind, he'll definitely abandon you and come back to me immediately." Hearing this, my expression instantly darkened. Before, I just thought Jessica was stupid, but now I found her utterly disgusting. I coldly looked at her and said flatly, "Who doesn't have an ex they'd rather forget? As long as I'm the only one in his heart now, that's all that matters. Besides, if he would really get back together with you just because you say so, why don't you go find him directly? Why go through all this trouble to tell me?" I went along with her words, pretending to believe what she said. Seeing that I believed her, Jessica's expression softened a bit. She raised an eyebrow smugly and said, "Fine, you said it yourself. Don't regret it later. I only wanted to persuade you to leave voluntarily because you're my friend. Since you won't listen to reason, just wait to be kicked out." With that, Jessica angrily turned and left. That evening when Alexander came home, after hearing from the staff about what happened during the day, he hugged me with a wronged expression. "Baby, I swear, from beginning to end, there's only been you. I only love you. I don't know why your friend would say such things. I've never done anything to betray you." He was so anxious to prove himself innocent that he almost cried. I stroked his head, smiling as I comforted him. Of course I believe my husband. That bad woman just can't stand to see me happy and is trying to break us up on purpose. I buried my head in his shoulder and said softly, "Promise me, no matter what happens in the future, you'll believe in me, okay? Don't try to understand me through other people's words. If there's a problem, ask me directly, okay? In my past life, I fell because of trust. If I had trusted Alexander a little more, perhaps the outcome wouldn't have been like that. This time I didn't fall into Jessica's trap, but she might try to manipulate Alexander next." Hearing my words, Alexander nodded firmly and raised his hand to swear to me. "I, Alexander Gray, swear that I will trust and cherish Lily Collins for a lifetime." I held his hand and said with a smile, "No need to swear. I believe you." The next day, my phone was bombarded with calls. Looking at the dozen missed calls, I was a bit dazed and called back. "Mom, what happened?" I thought something had happened at home and my heart was in my throat. An angry rebuke came from the other end of the phone. "Lily Collins, you've really gone too far this time. How could you do something as despicable as being a homewrecker? Having a daughter like you, I must have done something terrible in my past lives." I listened in confusion, bewildered. "Mom, what are you talking about? I don't understand." My mom let out a cold laugh. "Huh, you don't understand? If your best friend Jessica hadn't come crying to our doorstep, I wouldn't have known you were such a shameless person." As soon as I heard the keyword Jessica, I immediately understood what had happened. Jessica must have gone to my parents and told them an exaggerated version of events. I sighed, wanting to explain, but before I could even say mom, I was cut off. "Come home right away. Since you haven't gotten your marriage license yet, break it off immediately. Don't go ruining other people's relationships." With that, my mom hung up the phone, not even giving me a chance to explain. Left with no choice, I could only drive home to explain things in person. As soon as I reached the front door, I heard Jessica's crying coming from inside. "Why, uncle, auntie, you have to help me. I treated Lily like my own sister, but she stabbed me in the back and stole my boyfriend." My mom was comforting her. "It's okay. I've already scolded Lily. Auntie will make them break up right away. She won't compete with you." When I entered, this was the scene I saw. Jessica sat on the sofa, crying her eyes out, while my parents were busy offering her tissues and fruit. When she saw me come in, a flash of triumph passed through Jessica's red-rimmed eyes. My mom saw me and immediately dragged me into the kitchen, berating me. "Lily, how could you be so foolish? Even if Alexander is rich, you shouldn't become a mistress just to marry into wealth." I frowned, looking displeased. "I'm not a mistress. Alexander and I had a wedding ceremony, and we got married with both families' blessings. How am I a mistress?" Seeing that I showed no remorse, my mom raised her hand and slapped me. "Ungrateful child. If I had known you were a homewrecker, I would never have agreed to your marriage, even if it killed me." She kept calling me a homewrecker, and I knew Jessica must have brainwashed her. Talking was useless since she wouldn't believe me anyway, so I directly took out the red booklet from my bag. "Mom, look carefully. Alexander and I are legally married. We are the lawful husband and wife. Even if Jessica dated Alexander before, that's all in the past. I am Alexander's wife now, so please stop helping an outsider." I thought showing the marriage certificate would calm my mom down, but it only made her angrier. She raised her hand and slapped me again, making my ears ring. I stared at her in shock, but my mom said, "Divorce. Divorce him right now." I frowned in confusion, wanting to ask why. My mom took a deep breath and pulled out an ultrasound report from her pocket. "Jessica is pregnant. She's carrying Alexander's child."